Late last night, early this morning, Guy Lafleur passed away after a battle with lung cancer. The last of the Flying Frenchmen, my favorite Montreal Canadian of all time. The Flower, Le Démon Blanc, 5 Stanley Cups, 1973, 76, 77, 78, 79. The first player in the National Hockey League to score 50-plus goals and 100-plus points in 6 consecutive seasons. In my opinion, the most electrifying, the most elegant, the most spectacular Montreal Canadian of all time. Tonight, I pay tribute, along with his friends, former colleagues, teammates, fans, to the man that everyone called the Flower. The Sick Podcast is coming up. I'm Marinaro.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro. The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
And now a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Sports entertainment like no other. Brought to you by 8.6 Beer, intense by nature. And La Cage. If the last time you went to La Cage was when the Habs won the Cup, it's time you went back to La Cage. The menu will surprise you.
April 22nd, 2022 will forever be known as one of the saddest days that Montreal has ever known. The entire city is sad today. We lost our hero. We lost our hockey idol. Guy Lafleur is no more, but legends never die, and his legend and his star will always shine bright. Tough day today. Tough day. I had a chance to meet Guy Lafleur on several occasions. I had a chance to talk to him on several occasions, and there's a couple of stories I'll tell you quickly before we get to our guests. One of which was several years ago. His friend and advisor, Donnie Cape, organized for the Stanley Cup to be in town, and they brought it over to a restaurant on the West Island, and Donnie Cape was there. Guy Lafleur was there. His best friend, or one of his best friends, his former teammate Larry Robinson, was there. And Donnie invited a couple of people, and myself and my eldest son were 2 of those people. And I spent time with Guy Lafleur and Larry Robinson with the Stanley Cup, and it's a day that I'll never forget for sure. But around Christmas time, or actually it was at Christmas time, I said, I used to have a Guy Lafleur jersey growing up as a kid. I remember there was a poster of him in the locker room. He was tying his skates. He didn't have his jersey on. He was tying his skates. And that poster actually came in a Montreal Canadiens magazine. And if I'm not mistaken, even in a disco album that he released back in 1979. And I had that poster, and I put Scotch tape and I put it up on my bedroom door. And I looked at that poster all the time. I was fascinated by Guy Lafleur. When we played ball hockey, we were all Guy Lafleur. When we played ice hockey, we were all Guy Lafleur. He made his dream. And he made a lot of our dreams reality. He was magical. He was poetry in motion. He was, out of all the Montreal Canadiens, he's the one that can get you out of your seat more so than any other Montreal Canadian. And he wasn't only greatness on the ice, he was greatness off the ice. He was class, genuine, a real person. And at Christmas time, I said, I'm going to get myself a gift. And I got myself a Guy Lafleur jersey. And I put the picture up on social media, and I put the video up on social media. And his advisor and friend, Donnie Cape, saw it and called Guy and actually sent it to him. And he said to Donnie, he said, get me that jersey. That jersey deserves to be signed, and I want to sign it for him, even in his fragile state. So I got him the jersey. I got Donnie the jersey. Donnie got it to Guy. Guy signed it. And then Donnie called me up a couple of days later and said, meet me at Rockerberry's on the West Island, on Sources in Brunswick and DDO. And that was one of their favorite hangout spots. And I met Donnie there. And he told me that Guy was too weak to be there. But Guy wanted to talk to me. So he gave Guy a call and he passed me the phone. And I said, Guy, thank you so much. And he said, thank you for going out and getting my jersey. I said, are you kidding me, Guy? I said, you were my favorite player then, and you're my favorite player now. And he said, thank you very much. And that jersey deserved to be signed. So I was happy to sign it for you. And I said, Guy, I know you're going through a really tough time. Please fight. I love you. All Montreal Canadiens fans love you. Hockey fans around the world love you. Everybody loves you. And we need you. And he said, I'll fight. I'll fight. And fight he did. I want to bring in a couple of people, and we'll start with one guy who knew him very, very well. Probably better than most, probably better than anyone. Why? They worked together from 1974 until Guy retired in 1984 as a player for the first time. But even when he retired, for a while, he worked with the Montreal Canadiens, so he probably saw him for quite some time, and then probably saw him less when Guy made his comeback and joined the New York Rangers in 1989. But they've been friends for the longest time. They kept in touch. He's former Habs athletic therapist for 26 years, from 1974 to 2000. Gaetan Lefebvre.
Hi, Tony. How are you?
He knew you as Pitsy Gates, huh?
Yeah, T. Gates is right. You know what, Tony? This is a tough act to follow after what you just said. I needed an handkerchief. Flower was how do I say that? Flower made people better, both around him on the ice, but also off the ice. You know, your story about Donnie Cape, Donnie had a daughter who had health issues, and, Donnie wore his emotion on his sleeves. It's not a luck that Donnie is close to Larry Robinson and Guy Lafleur, because they're twin brothers. They're generous people. They're great people, both, and they're superstar on and off the ice. I mean, I don't know where you want to start.
Well, so listen, why don't we do this, Gates? And thank you for doing this, because it's been an emotional day for everyone. Yeah. I don't know about you, but to be honest, I'm absolutely spent. I think I don't have any tears left in my system. I'm running on fumes right now, but as much as it's tough to talk about Guy, it's kind of like therapy at the same time. So it's hard to do, but I'm kind of happy that I'm doing it, if that makes sense. But
yes.
Why don't you start and you tell people a little bit about yourself? I knew you were a Point St. Charles kid growing up. I don't know much more than that. I don't know how big a Canadiens fan you were or you weren't. I don't know how you got the opportunity. You started off, I believe, as an assistant to Eddie Palchuk, and after a couple of years, you became the head therapist, if memory serves me well. But talk to us about your story and when you started working for the Canadiens and how that all came about.
So 1974, I'm from the Point, and I was raised in the the back store beyond the Dépanneur on Laprairie and Chateauguay and Roperay, with no shower, no bath, just behind a Dépanneur with maybe 600 square feet for a family of 5 people.
Wow.
And so I quickly knew that I needed to have a summer job. So in 74, there was a new lacrosse league for which there was a team with the Montreal Québécois that were co-owned by John Ferguson. And their office was on Park Avenue. So I jumped on my bike with an empty blank envelope So I rode my bike from Point Saint Charles to Park Avenue North of Montreal, Mont-Royal Avenue. And I said to the receptionist, my dad is parked, double parked. I got money for season tickets. And I walked into Mr. Ferguson's office, said, my dad's not here. If he knows I'm here, he's going to give me a good wank. I said, I need a summer job. He says, come back in May. The camp is at Loyal College. And I went there in May, and he says, you still here? I said, you told me to come in May. So they hired me to be jack of all trades and master of none at age 14 with Les Québécois.
Wow.
And at the end of the year, Habs needed somebody. At the time, the therapist was Bob Williams, and the equipment manager was with Eddie Palchak. They needed a young pair of hands to be around and be a rink rat, but in the locker room. And that's how I started. And that's
so
how
when you started in 1974, Guy joined. Of course, he was the first pick overall in 1971. And by the way, what a story this was. All right, okay. So the Canadiens won the Stanley Cup in 1971. They had defeated early on in the playoffs the Boston Bruins, who that year were a powerhouse with Orr and Esposito and Cashman and company and Busick and all those great players. And then they beat them. They were down 5-1 in a game, by the way. They won by a score of 7-5.
Yep.
With rookie Ken Dryden in goal. They went to the Stanley Cup final versus the Chicago Blackhawks. They won Game 7 in Chicago by a score of 3-2. They win the Stanley Cup. And even after winning the Stanley Cup, they had the first pick overall in the draft. So for those who don't know the story, how did it happen? Guy Lafleur was tearing up, the league with the Quebec Remparts. In his last season, he had scored 130 goals. And there was talk that Guy Lafleur, of course, was going to be the next one. So what did Sam Pollock, the then general manager, do? Sam Pollock made a deal with the California Golden Seals. He traded Ernie Hickey, a left winger, and the Habs' first-round pick in 1970 for François Lacombe, cash, and the first-round pick in 71, because in 71 it was between Guy Lafleur or Marcel Dion. So he figured, you know what? It's going to be one or the other. Let's make the deal with California. They're going to finish last in the league, and the Canadiens will get the first pick overall. Brilliant move. But in the 71 season, things didn't go according to plan. And actually, Los Angeles had less points than California at one point, and it looked like they were going to finish last. So what does Sam Pollock do? He trades Ralph Backstrom, 32-year-old center, to the Los Angeles Kings. He plays 33 games with the Kings. He scores 14 goals. He picks up 27 points. The Kings actually end up finishing with 18 more points than the California Golden Seals. California finishes last overall, and the Montreal Canadiens get the first pick in the draft. A month before the draft, because once again, there was still talk of whether or not it was going to be Guy Lafleur or Marcel Dion. Guy Lafleur's idol was Jean Béliveau. He wore number 4 like Jean Béliveau did for the Canadiens. See, Gates, let me take you to the draft. This was June 10, 1971 at the Queen Elizabeth Hotel in Montreal. Let's hear from Sam Pollock.
Quebec Remparts, Guy Lafleur. I think the thing that attracted me the most, very definitely, was his hockey brains.
All right, there you have it. So Lafleur, it's funny, he scored 29 goals in year 1 with the Canadiens, 28 in year 2, so 57 in his 29, 20, 57 in his first couple of seasons. And yet everyone said, oh, he's not that great. He scored 21 in year 3. A lot of people were worried. He was playing center, and there was a lot of pressure. He had to be the heir apparent to Jean Béliveau, who had retired at the end of the 71 season. Jean Béliveau, who had captained the Canadiens to that 1971 Stanley Cup win. Jean Béliveau had won, 10 Stanley Cups.
Yeah, 10.
And so he felt a little bit of pressure. And then in year 4, the helmet came off. Yvan Cournoyer tells me that it was he, Cournoyer, and the pocket rocket, Henri Richard, They would see Lafleur take the helmet off, put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off. They said, Guy, just take it off and just be who you are. If you don't like it, take it off. He took it off, and see Gates, the rest was history. Talk to me about the first time you met Guy Lafleur. So you started working for the Canadians in 74. How was your first encounter with him? Do you remember it?
I do, and I do because I don't sort of like he was so low key at the time. You walk in the dressing room and there's Pocket Rocket, there's Guy Lafleur, Serge Savard, and all these Kenny Dryden, all guys that were in part of '72 series. And let me take a step back. My first ever game at the Forum regular season game. You may recall this, Tony. So in those days, the young lad would go to see the head coach, and you would write on the whiteboard who's not playing tonight. And so I go into Scotty Bowman's office, and he tells me 8, 21, and 16. I go, hold on a second. 8 is Ron Andruff. I get it. In my mind, 14 years old. 21, Glenn Sater. People forget that Glenn Sater played for the Montreal Canadiens. 16 is the Pocket Rocket. I go, what's this? So I walk into the whiteboard, and as I write, I'm 8, 21, and I wrote 16 at the last minute, hoping that the coach would change his mind, but I wrote 16, and behind me there's this Pocket Rocket that walks in from behind in the old Forum. He goes out the front door, walks around the ice, and gets out on St. Catherine Street and takes a cab, and the rest is history. He was away but Guy Lafleur was one of the lowest maintenance, for locker room attendant, support staff, like our friend Mike Moretto.
Yeah.
He'll tell you that, the superstars are quite often the lowest maintenance people off the court, off the pitch, off the ice.
Oh, really? Hey, let me ask you this. How much maintenance was a guy like Yvon Lambert?
Very low maintenance. Yvon
Very
was
low maintenance? Yeah,
happy-going guy. He would be our running gag would be because there'll be official presentation. They go by number, right?
Yeah.
And we would say, Yvon, you're following Guy Lafleur, but you're number 1 in heart, because everybody would applaud when Guy Lafleur gets on the ice, and then goes down to Lambert, back to Cournoyer. So it was an anticlimax. But we used to. But the one thing about Guy Lafleur is that
Gates, if you can hold that for a second, why don't we say hello to this gentleman right now, if we can bring him in? Yvon Lambert.
Oui.
Hey, say hi to C. Gates.
Salut,
Jack.
mon Gaétan. Comment
Salut,
ça va?
Jack Lambert, mon chum. How are you?
Yes. Good, buddy. Good.
Hey, number 1 in my heart.
T'as bien parlé, Gaétan. T'as bien parlé.
Number 11 on your sweater, number 1 in your heart.
Yes, buddy.
Yvon, it was really nice to see you earlier this evening as we gathered at our buddy Frankie Finelli's house to remember our friend Guy Lafleur, more your friend than C. Gates' friend. I wish he was as good a friend to me as he was to you, but he was a friend to everybody, right? I mean, the first time you would meet Guy Lafleur, he would make you feel like you've known each other for 100 years. And Yvon, I know you want to pay tribute to your former teammate and your friend tonight. Talk to us about Guy Lafleur.
Well, Guy Lafleur is the last one to be our superstar. After Maurice Richard, Jean Béliveau, Flowers there, and he took the flambeau. Unbelievable. He took it's unbelievable what he did. We had in the 70s, we won 4 Stanley Cups together. Guy won 5, me I won 4 with him.
Yeah.
And he was number 1 in the world from 75 to 80. And we had such of a good memories with him and us, because we were his line mates. It's unbelievable the thrilling we had with him, and merci beaucoup, Guy. Merci beaucoup.
And Yvon, if I can add one to what Yvon just said, Yvon, I think you will agree with me that Flower, when we get on the plane, he scored 2 goals and 2 assists, and he would serve everybody. He would be serving us beers and meals,
Yeah.
you know, and then he would tell the stewards, you know, you have a long day, you had a tough flight, but he just played 3 hours of hockey game in National Hockey League in Boston or Chicago, and he would be serving meals and beers, and you know, like that was Flower.
Gaetan, Flower was. It's just we learned that when we came up with the organization. Flower learned that from Maurice Richard. He learned it from Jean Béliveau. And those guys, when you're superstars, they realize that they're not only alone. They need 20 guys. And Béliveau said it all the time when I came up with the team. Guy Lafleur was, it's not only Guy Lafleur. We're 20 guys. And like Gaetan said, Flower in the plane, because he wasn't able to be with us all the time because he was so busy. He was every day. So Guy, super guy.
Yvon, a couple of things I want to get to with you, and I won't keep you very much longer, and I appreciate your time. But one was, before we get to the 79 series versus the Bruins, how about the 77 series versus the Bruins? It was the Stanley Cup final, the Canadiens versus the Bruins. The Canadiens won Game 1 and Game 2 at the Montreal Forum. When they went back to Boston, Mike Milbury told the media, he told the papers, he told everyone, I'm going to take Lafleur's head off.
Yeah.
John Winsink called him a chicken, and Game 3 happens in Boston. And to tell you the truth, Lafleur looked a little bit tentative in period number 1, but then as the game went on, he put it in fifth gear. 2 goals, 2 assists, 4-2 win. He beat the Bruins pretty much by himself, huh?
Sure. Guy Lafleur was so intense in every game. And like you said, in the 70s, the big rivalry we had with the Flyers, Philadelphia Flyers, Boston Bruins, Toronto. Guy Lafleur showed up every game, not only home, even on the road. And that's why those guys, they're superstars. They're super vedette. And what happened with Mike Milbury there, that didn't impress too much Flower. Flower, I think he did purposely a shot to his head. Instead of to shoot at the net, he shot at his shoulder.
And Lafleur was asked, did you want to shoot at his head on purpose? He said, I didn't want to hurt him. I just wanted to scare him.
And Tony, if I may add, I think Yvon's taking a back seat here, because I remember the day Eddie Paulchek and I, we left the Sheraton Hotel in Boston at 3:00 to go to the Boston Garden with Flower.
Right.
And what's his name? Mr. Travis. Remember Brian Travis, the big guy that used to follow every.
The driver.
And I know. I remember to the day that you and Rick Chartres and Pierre Bouchard said to Flower, take care of the puck, we'll take care of Winsing and all these guys. You were the first one that told him, hey, you take care of the puck, we got your back. So Flower felt, okay. Yvon, we used to, Yvon, Rick Chartres, Pierre Bouchard. When Yvon says 20 players, okay, he's so spot on. And that's why Flower recognized, and then Yvon takes a back seat, but he deserves a lot of credit, because Yvon and all these guys, they say, Flower, you score, we got the rest. Yeah. We got the rest. Don't worry about it. In Philadelphia,
Gates, one of my favorite moments.
We learned that, and Tony, we learned that when we came up with the organization.
Yeah.
Jean Béliveau always said, hey, I'm not the only one. We're winning cups. It's because we're 20 guys. We're a family. And Flower did the same thing. Flower, he was so nice, so generous, and he was the first one to say, see, we won because I need you guys. We're 20 guys together.
And you're right about that 20 guys together. I was thinking earlier today, In 1979, Guy Lafleur had something like 123 points. I believe he had like 89 points or something like that, more than Bob Gainey. He, along with Jacques Lemaire in the playoffs, led the Canadians with 23 points or something. And Gainey won the Conn Smythe in 1979. So to think, you had a Guy Lafleur, a Jacques Lemaire, all those great players. It was Bob Gainey that won the Conn Smythe. So he really bought into the whole team concept. And Yvon, one of my favorite memories of Guy Lafleur was a memory of Guy Lafleur and Yvon Lambert. I'll take you to 1979, the playoffs between the Canadians and the Bruins. The Bruins lead by a score of 4-3 with a couple of minutes left in regulation. They get called for too many men on the ice, and Guy Lafleur does this.
Yeah.
Coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur.
Yvon, before we get to the next goal, can you begin to explain to me, you're on the bench.
Yeah.
You see Lafleur score that goal. Can you put into words what you felt at that moment?
Well, we felt we're in the game because the Bruins, they were leading the games for 58 minutes. They were always leading the game. And it's the 7th game in Montreal. And the penalty there, Scotty Bowman was always the second. Every second shift was Guy Lafleur. Yes. And when Flowers scored the goal in overtime, we go back in the dressing room, and then Mario Tremblay says to me, "Hey, Lambert, we're going to score the goal with that because us, me, Mario, and Riseborough, and then Régent Hall, we were having really good games against the Bruins and Flower too. But and that's what happened. I did have the score in overtime, and I had 24 hours vedettario like Guy Lafleur.
Yeah, let's relive that magical moment right now. Yvon, let's take a look. I know you never get tired of seeing that goal. Your goal in 1979.
Savard, the veteran, stopped him. Here's Tremblay hitting the Boston line. Tremblay cutting. 70 right to go.
Hey, Yvon, what is that, scoring a goal like that? What does that feel like?
Top of the world. Lafleur was second that night.
You don't remember a couple of days later, the guys were joking around in the locker room, and Serge was saying, "Hey, I made the play that made the pass to you." So Tony, that was the kind of group that we had at the time. We said, "Okay, check. We won. We beat them. Check."
I said Régent Hall. Reggie,
Reggie.
Pass, but Serge Havard cut Rick Middleton.
Yeah,
and Reggie just tip the puck to Mario Tremblay, and Reggie, a hell of a pass. It wasn't a hell of a pass. He just tipped the puck to Mario Tremblay.
So for a week after this 7th game, Tony, the locker room talk was all pranks. Reggie argued with Serge, who made the point, and Lambert said, I scored a goal.
Hey, Yvon, before we let you go, you talked to us about so many great moments on the ice. Is there a moment that stands out for you off the ice? Would Guy Lafleur something that you saw that you said, wow, lui là, il m'impressionne?
Why, there's many of them. But
Give me one.
I remember once, after our career, we're the alumni. We're playing we're going to Sagar, a family, Desmarais, la famille Desmarais and Sagar. And we're playing an outside game, and it's minus 40 degrees. And we're starting to sign autographs on the ice there. And it was so cold. So Mr. Desmarais asked Guy Lafleur, "Can you come inside and keep signing autographs. Guy Lafleur said, yes, we're all going inside and we're all going to sign the 250 autograph. There were maybe 250 people there outside in Sagi,
Wow.
Saga Desmarais family. It was so touchy, so nice. And André Desmarais, the family, they invited us the next summer to go and play golf there. So Guy Lafleur, it's unbelievable what he did. His generosity uh, towards his public, the fans. That's Guy Lafleur number one.
Ivo, I know it's been a very long and very difficult day for you. Thank you so much for joining me on the Sick Podcast tonight. Merci,
Merci
Ivo.
Tony,
Hey, Jack.
merci beaucoup.
Take care.
Salut
mon Jack.
Gaëtan, bonne fin de
Gates,
soirée tout le monde.
Merci, Ivo. Gates, if you can stick around for a
Sure.
few minutes,
Sure.
because, there were these stories that Guy Lafleur would get to the rink at 3:30, 4 o'clock for an 8 o'clock game. Can you talk to us about what that was all about? Because I would imagine if there's one person who knew or who saw it, it was you.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go back early on. I started working for the Canadians, and the late Eddie Palchak, our dear friend Eddie Palchak, says Flower needs to be in the room at 3:30. I go 3:30. Game's at 8. Okay, fine. So I go see my dad. I said, Dad, I need a paper from you so I could see my teacher and ask him to be able to leave the Pointe Saint Charles High School, Charles Lemoine in Pointe Saint Charles, 15 minutes earlier. So in the 70s, and I not to say don't talk where I'm from, but it was not the hottest place to be, right? No shower, no bathroom. It was just. So I said, Mr. Provost, I said I need to leave school at 3 o'clock instead of 3:15. Guy Lafleur is picking me up to go to the forum. He goes, Mr. Lefebvre, because he used to call every student Mr. Marinaro, Mr. Lefebvre, Mr. Moretto. I go, sir, I promise you, if it's not Guy Lafleur, I don't know the word in English, je vais être en retenue. I'll be staying.
Detention.
Detention.
Yeah.
So here comes my chemistry teacher. When he sees Guy Lafleur, I hyperventilated. I said, sir, please don't do this. I have to go. So on weekdays, many times, Flower would pick me up at school. We'd go to the forum. He would park his Tornado car, orange Tornado, and we'd walk in the dressing room, and I would hang up my stuff and open my school bag.
Yeah, Gates, pardon me. Those car rides.
Yeah.
What was the conversation?
How's school? Are you okay? Is everything okay? Do you need anything? I'm fine, Flower. I mean, I'm living a dream. I mean, I'm living a dream. But the thing about Flower
There's
is
that
that
story that I was told.
Yeah.
If I can.
Yeah, sure.
It involved Guy Lafleur, you, and a winter jacket. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. So you're right. You're spot on. So, I don't like coming from a underprivileged neighborhood. You're working for the Montreal Canadiens. All of a sudden, you become the spotlight of your own family, and then you don't want to do that because I got brothers and cousins and all that stuff. So I'm going to the forum, and it was one of those those cold February days where I had a in those days, Tony, even the stick boy needed to have a clip-on tie to walk into the forum. That was the rules. No long hair and a clip-up tie. So I had a clip-on tie with a jean jacket, which almost like fur inside. Those jean jacket.
Yeah.
And I'm freezing my BL. So I get into the forum, and I'm trying to get undressed, and I see a mink coat. So I said, Flower, for God's sakes, I got a locker room that's got a foot long and 6 foot high. I got 1 foot by 6 foot in the entire forum. You got the entire building. He says, it doesn't fit me anymore. I said, Flower, I'm 5'8", you're 6'1". It never fits you. So it was a mink coat because he felt that I was cold. I look around and so I open the jacket. It says, from Guy to Gates. Wow. A mink coat.
Wow.
So a few months later, I'm still in school, and one of my girlfriend was from Quebec City, and in those days you had a day off on Christmas Day, and I had an old Bobcat, old rusty Bobcat. I used to park across the street. Remember, Tony, from the Forum on De Maisonneuve, there was a parking lot just across the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so practice day on the 24th, I'm running across the street to
I think there was a gas station there too, no?
Exactly. So I'm trying to rush to Quebec City. I'm looking for my car. My car's not there. My keys are not there. So the guy says, "Oh, Mr. Lafleur says it's not safe for you to go to Quebec City in that Bobcat. This is the car you're taking." So you rented me a car. I go, "Oh God, there you go again." He goes, "Have a look at the glove compartment. $200 in '77." That was Guy Lafleur. Wow. With a note: "Don't be late for the plane," because in those days we used to go to Pittsburgh on Boxing Day. Don't be late for the plane. That was Flower.
I was told so many stories of you know, he always made time for his fans, right? He always made time for his fans. I received a few messages today from one gentleman said that they had a family party at Guy's restaurant back in the day, and Guy came in for the day just to meet the people. He knew that they were big fans, took pictures with everyone, picked up babies, picked up children, would take pictures. And there was an event a couple of years ago to pay tribute to Guy Lafleur, and he always talked about that for him the public was number one, and at times it even kind of hurt his family life, right? Because everyone wanted a piece of him, that he put the public, his fans, before his family. And he said that later on in life he got to appreciate how much, how important his family was to him. But for him, the fans were so important. They were so important. And to hear the stories, the way he treated you, ask you about school, give you money, give you a mink coat, it was unbelievable. It was the fact that he was a heavy smoker that put him in some health trouble. How much did he smoke when he was playing? Because there was talk that he would smoke before the games, after the periods, and
and you have to remember that he was under so much pressure. I don't know. I don't remember the year exactly, but I do remember where there was some threats against his life. He was going to get kidnapped, and he was wearing a belt for his clothes. I think it's 75 against the Flyers, or 70. I think it's 75. Yeah, where Jean Beliveau and him only knew, but we all sensed there was something going on, because there was always the big guys without a neck walking around with him, bodyguards, and Flower was under a lot of pressure. I mean, a lot of pressure, and because Guy.
I'm happy you're sharing this story tonight, and I'm going to tell you why, right? Because there was this, I think, a misconception that Flower liked to smoke because back then it was cool. Someone very close to him told me that Flower felt a lot of pressure and had a lot of nervous energy before the game. That's why he needed to get to the arena at 3:30. He needed to get there. He needed to smoke. He needed to have his cups of coffee. He needed to decompress. He needed to relax. And he felt a lot of pressure. He was supposed to be the next Beliveau. He was supposed to be the next 50-goal scorer, the next 100-point guy, the next deliver Stanley Cups. And he did all of that. But people always wanted more.
But you know what I'd like to think, or I think, is that the locker room was his kingdom and the ice was his stage. And when he was in his kingdom, he knew that he was able to be himself, well, like a young lad like me, like a 15, 16, 17-year-old like me, where I would never judge him. We would play backgammon. You play backgammon with your stick boy. And then he was able to be himself, which is a genuine, good, caring person. Guy Lafleur was a very, very, very good person. He did so many things for a lot of people on and off the ice. And he was, but then as the game came close, the game time came, he would put his sort of how do I say that? His costume on, which meant the sweater. And then now the show must go on. And after the show was done, when the game was over, and I remember, I mean, the in place to be in Montreal after a game when we were playing Montreal was the locker room. You had Prime Minister Trudeau, René Lévesque, Jean Drapeau, Gilles Villeneuve, all the who's who will be in, Paul Newman. They would all be in Montreal, and they were in locker room. And if I would walk by, I said, Gates, tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock? Yeah, Flower, tomorrow morning. There's Guy Lafleur talking to Paul Newman. Said, Gates, 9 o'clock tomorrow, right? Yeah, no problem, Flower. That was Guy, because he appreciated Yvon Lambert and Pierre Bouchard, Rick Chartres, because what they could do with him on the ice, but he appreciated Eddie Palchak and myself and other people off the ice, because our job was to make his kingdom comfortable.
Yeah. In 1984, Jacques Lemaire is coach. He doesn't get off to the start that he wants. His production had gone down a little bit. Lemaire no longer thought that Guy Lafleur was a top 6 player, so then his role was in one of the bottom 2 lines, but he didn't think he was a checker, and he didn't think he was a shutdown guy. So it wasn't a fit, and he went to see Lemaire. He wasn't happy. They had a talk, a heart to heart, and he said, "I need ice time, or else I won't be able to put up points if you don't give me ice time." And Lemaire promised him all the ice time in the world, over 20 minutes. You'll play power play, you'll play penalty kill, you'll double shift, you'll play this, that, all that stuff. He said, okay. And I think the next game he played 6 minutes, and he said, you know what? That's it. A couple of days later, I'm going to take you to Monday, November 26, 1984. Guy Lafleur announces his retirement. Watch this.
Après la saison l'an passé, on avait connu de bonnes séries éliminatoires. Probablement que ça y allait beaucoup mieux cette année. Puis cette année, je suis arrivé, puis tombé dans une intergie que tout le monde connaît. Puis c'est là que j'ai décidé de prendre le week-end, puis d'en parler. Sérieusement avec ma famille. Je pensais pas... peut-être que je n'étais pas motivé comme je l'ai été dans mes grosses années. Puis que je me suis aperçu d'une chose, c'est que l'équipe allait bien. Puis il vaut mieux se retirer quand l'équipe va bien que si l'équipe avait été dans une passe où il y avait eu des difficultés.
Gates, Guy Lafleur always spoke his mind, right? He would say what a lot of people thought, but they never had the courage to say it. He would say it, and people loved him for it. On that particular day, you got the feeling that he didn't say everything that was on his mind. He took the diplomatic way out. Maybe I wasn't as motivated. Maybe this, maybe that. But you can tell he was in a lot of pain when he announced that retirement. He did not want to retire.
No, and neither did we. A lot of people around the club wanted to retire. I remember to this day, when he retired, I was living in Kirkland. I went down to my basement. I cried for about half hour because it was, for me, the first departure of the last great one. You know, I was fortunate enough to see Pocket Rocket when he in '74, and Jean Beliveau was around, and I had Guy Lafleur, Robinson, Gainey, Lapointe, Savard, Dryden, Cornway, and Flower was until we had Patrick Watt, that came a couple of years later, and Carbonneau and all these guys. So it was tough to witness as a support cast. And
Guy Lafleur had so many fans. Then he came back 3.5 years later as a New York Ranger, and we'll get to that in just a couple of minutes. One fan was a super fan, Liam McGuire, known as Mr. Hockey Trivia all over the world. I know that Liam would love to say hi to you, Gates.
Hey, Liam, how are
McGuire, say hi to Gaetan Lefebvre.
Gaetan Lefebvre, it's a real pleasure to see you again, my friend. And
how are you, sir?
Well, sad day, but I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. I think anybody like yourself who worked for the organization for the length of time you did, I think more of you guys today than people like myself. But I think all of us today lost a piece of us as hockey fans is what
Leon,
I've been going with today.
If there's one thing I learned from Guy Lafleur, there's no distinction between somebody who played with, worked with, or is a fan of. We're all fans of Guy Lafleur. We all love Guy Lafleur, and we're all the Guy Lafleur extended families. And me personally, I am. This morning, I'll be honest with you, I cried from 6 to about 9, and then I had a couple calls with league's officials, and Flower would say, "Come on, Gates, man up, step up. Next, show must go on." And to a certain extent, I am soulagé. I'm relieved to know that he no longer suffers. For me, that's the number one thing more important. And I think between him, the Rocket, Pocket, Flower, Mr. Beliveau, Mike Bossy, they have a pretty good team up there.
Yeah.
Look down to.
Gaetan, I so appreciate your time. It's been a long day for you. Like you said, it started at 6 o'clock this morning. Before I let you go, in 30 seconds, if you can, when was the last time you spoke with Guy? And if you can say something to Guy right now, because we know that he's watching, what would you tell him?
Guy, can I say it in French?
Ben oui, vas-y.
Guy, merci beaucoup d'avoir. Thank you for giving a kid from Pointe Saint Charles who came from not a fun background. Make me believe that I could potentially be something in life. I don't pretend to be a superstar, but he gave me confidence at age 14 where I didn't speak a word of English. I came from the hood, have difficulty, have 3 meals a day. And this guy said, "Hey, you're part of Montreal Canadiens. I'm just a stick boy." No. You're part of the Montreal. Guy, merci beaucoup. Je t'aime.
Merci à toi, Gaetan Lefebvre. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Gaetan. Liam McGuire, you love the Montreal Canadiens so much, you got married at the Montreal Forum.
I got it. We got engaged there, Tony. and I was the only guy. We were the only couple to do it. And in the 71-year, 3-month, 17-day history, that building was open for NHL hockey. And it was on a Friday night, September 10th, 1993, 7:35 p.m. And that building was my second home. That team was my life. And those players, the ones I grew up with, were my family, is how I view it. And I lost part of my family today. And I lost part of my hockey life today with the passing of Guy.
Liam, only Guy Lafleur, as a visiting player, can get the ovation that he got. I take you back to February 5th, 1989. Guy Lafleur returns to the Montreal Forum, still wearing the red, white, and blue, but this time with the New York Rangers.
They got the Guy here in just a minute. I guess really this isn't surprising, Scotty. We'll get back to Lafleur now. 4 years out of hockey, but my goodness, how they love him in Montreal. And here it is. Here's Lafleur coming on the ice, and he is getting an immediate standing O. And this is the second one that he's got, and the familiar chant of Guy goes up. Would you have believed it, really? Guy Lafleur against Gilles Thibodeau. Lafleur with the puck and play against the boards by Lafleur. Now it's Miller is centering. Pass. Here's Lafleur. Scores!
We don't have a tally yet how many goals he scored in that net, but it's a couple hundred probably. But Lafleur showing the magic in front of the net. He's able to take that rebound and put it right in the net, and what an ovation.
Scotty, I've never heard the other team score an ovation like this ever at the Montreal Forum.
And there was another one after that. I don't know if we have it, but Guy Lafleur scored 2 goals. If we can get it, Let's go to it. Right after that, there was the second goal that he scored, right?
Yeah, there was, and that's the one where he made the play on Sabota, I think, right at the blue line.
Yeah, made the play on Swoboda on the blue line, and quick wrist shot that beat Patrick Roy. Do we have it? It's right after that goal. I'd love to get it. Guy Lafleur scored 2 goals that night. Okay, we don't have it yet. Maybe I'm going to be. I'll be told when we do have it.
No problem.
That was a great moment. He scores 2 goals, and another great moment. Here's another night I'm never going to forget. March 30th, 1991, Quebec plays the Canadiens because, of course, he played a year with the Rangers. Michel Bergeron was the coach. Phil Esposito was the GM. And then Esposito took over, I think, with a couple of games left. Remember that? And Bergeron was dismissed. And Bergeron went to Quebec, so he followed him there with the Nordiques. His last game that he played in Montreal, he scored his 560th goal of his career. And when his career was over, I know, Liam, probably one of the greatest nights in your life, March 11, 1996, the closing of the Montreal Forum.
Yeah.
Guy Lafleur, listen to this.
Pour les uns, il était le démon blond. Pour d'autres, Flower. Il fut la plus grande vedette du hockey dans les années 70. Premier joueur à connaître 6 saisons de 50 buts et plus. Membre de la première équipe d'étoiles 6 ans de suite, il mérite le trophée Art Ross, remis au premier compteur dans la Ligue 3 ans de suite. Joueur le plus utile, gagnant du trophée Hart 2 années consécutives, gagnant du trophée Smythe, il a réécrit le livre des records du Canadien. C'était un joueur fascinant, capable des plus grands exploits dans les situations les plus difficiles. Un homme et un joueur de passion qui n'a jamais laissé personne indifférent. Gagnant de 5 Coupes Stanley, élu au Temple de la Renommée en 1988, le numéro 10, Guy Lafleur.
Liam, if that doesn't give you goosebumps, nothing will, huh?
No, that night is always remembered so much about the Rocket, but then so good of you, Tony, to play that. And because, I mean, the ovations were so big for everybody, and then the Rockets was insane. The crowd that night, that Monday night, and Guy being a part of it, it just seemed so right, It just was right. Everything was right with the world. Montreal beat Dallas easily. Nobody cared that Kovalenko got the last goal. It was all about, we all knew the carpet was coming out, and we knew it was going to be spectacular because that's the way the Habs roll. And now you look back on that with Guy gone today, and it sure resonates a lot more, to be honest. And I was there that night. And I'll never forget it. It was my final night after 21 years of going to the Montreal Forum. And I'll never forget it. And it resonates a lot more today, seeing that now, Tony. So I'm really glad you played it.
Liam, there was just something about Guy Lafleur. And I know a lot of people say a lot of nice things about someone when they pass. But I think you can kind of understand me because I think you kind of feel the same way. There were players that scored more goals than Guy Lafleur. There were players that picked up more assists than Guy Lafleur. There were players that had more points than Guy Lafleur. But I never liked another player more than I like Guy Lafleur. And I know he wasn't the greatest hockey player of all time, but for me, he was.
Yep. Yeah. And you're making me emotional too, man, thinking about it. I'll tell you, I've had a long day. And like you, and like Gaetan, and like many, many others that have had the privilege, I call it today, to have reminisced and somewhat memorialized and talked about this guy's incredible career. I don't think you could say it any better than you just did, Tony. because statistically you don't have to try and pussyfoot around this. The guy is still 29th overall in scoring, okay? He's been retired for 30 years. He's still 29th in scoring. Yeah, he'll be passed to go down probably a few more. A few guys will pass him 1,343 points. Wasn't about that. He took the torch from Bobby Orr and he handed it to Wayne Gretzky. He was that guy between those two. And he didn't take a back seat to them in the years that he carried that torch. He was the best player in the world. He was the best player on the greatest team ever. He was the straw that stirred the drink for the National Hockey League in that 6-year run that he had, let alone the success that the Canadians had, which he largely orchestrated, albeit with the most incredible team you could possibly have. So his flair, his look, the hair, his style, his skating, his shot, his compete level, you put all that together with the CH on your chest in Montreal, with the cosmopolitan city that Montreal is, with that fan base that had grown up with Joe Malone, and Howie Morenz, and Aurore Joliette, Rocket Richard, and Elmer Locke, and Toe Blake, and into Jean Beliveau, and Boom Boom Geoffrion, and Dickie Moore, and Doug Harvey, and into the great goaltenders, and then into Guy. And you're talking about a 40, 50, almost 60-year run. Generations of people in that city, in that province, in our country, and in the sport of hockey that grew up. And then coming along comes Guy, and he just comes in and becomes that guy, the next guy, and he takes it to the level that he did. He was special. Everything you just said was correct. He had 560 goals, not 894. He had 1,343 points, not 2,800 like Gretzky. But in his day, in his time, when it was needed, when he came up the ice with the puck on a Saturday night in the Montreal Forum, everybody came out of their seats. Everybody came out of their seats in their living rooms or in the bars because Lafleur was coming up the ice with the puck. That's what it was, man.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Liam, he retired for 3.5 years, came back at age 37, new team, new coach, new system, new culture, new everything, and put up like 0.70 points per game or close to that with the Rangers. You would know better than I do, but I don't have it in front of me, but I think it was like 45 or 47 points in 65 games or something like that with the Rangers in the first year.
Yeah.
And then the year after that, he joined the Nordiques. He almost put up a point per game.
I know.
38 years old.
I know. You know, Tony, the first time I ever met him was after he retired in Montreal and he joined the alumni. And he came to Ottawa to play with the Montreal alumni against an alumni group here in Ottawa, a charity event. And I was working at the time. I'd come back from college and I was hired by the local community cable channel. They had the broadcast rights that day. This was an alumni game. So I was the interviewer. And so in the first intermission, I went on the ice at the Earl Armstrong Arena and interviewed Guy Lafleur. And it was ridiculous. I know it was an alumni game. He'd been out of the NHL for about 12 months at that time. And it was so ridiculous how good he was. And look, I know I've been around hockey all my life. You know, I played competitively till I was 24. I know what I know. I'm telling you right now, I said to him at the end of the interview, I said, you should still be playing. This is ridiculous. And he just laughed it off. That's 37 years ago. That was the first time I met him. If you had told me that when I went to the Forum the first time and saw him score his first playoff hat trick on Saturday night, May 1st, 1975, Game 3 against the Sabres, Montreal won 7-0. Guy Lafleur got his first playoff hat trick. I was in the building. I was 15 years old. He scored his third goal on a delayed penalty where he took it end to end. I thought the roof of the Forum was going to blow off that night. I never thought I'd see anything like it again. And then 4 years later, he did what he did in Game 7 against the Bruins, where I also was in the building with my late father. And when Guy scored to tie that with $1:14 to go at the end of that power play. As God is my witness, the railing shook that night. My father and I standing behind the Reds, standing room only, in the unbelievable Montreal Forum, in that atmosphere. And the noise, Tony, the crowds, the volume, the exhaling from the lungs went out and bounced off the walls and came back like a tsunami and swallowed us in an unbelievable decibel level. I've never heard a building like it before or since when Guy scored that goal in 79. He was very, very special. He's a special athlete, special human being, special man, and a great Canadian, unbelievable Quebecer. So proud of being a Quebecois from the province, and everything that he stood for, everything that he represented on the ice and off the ice as a Montreal Canadian is beyond reproach.
It sounds like
so thankful.
It sounds like a state funeral is being planned, and it's probably going to take place at the Bell Center. And I would imagine I'm going to see you there, and I'll give you a big hug when I do. Thanks for doing this, Liam.
Hey, Tony, thanks for having me on, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Liam McGuire. All right, in ending, I got my jersey here that I talked to you about before. This is the jersey that I got for myself for Christmas that Guy signed in the month of January, and it all coincided during that time. He actually had stopped his chemo, and he wanted quality of life in his final months. Here's a couple of pictures I want to show you, if I can. Myself with Guy. We have those pictures. Let's bring up those pictures if we can. We're not bringing up the pictures for whatever reason. Can we bring up the pictures? No. Okay, it looks like there's a technical issue and the pictures are not coming up, but all right, there you have it. There's a that was opening night at the Bell Center one year. There was a red carpet night, and Guy Lafleur was on the red carpet, and so was I, and I had a chance to meet him. And there's one and take a picture with him, and there was another one when we took a picture with the Stanley Cup. I spent some time with him, my son, Larry Robinson, and there you have it, at a restaurant in the West Island with the Stanley Cup. We in Montreal and Montreal Canadiens fans, we all lost our hero today. We lost our hero. We lost our idol. But legends last forever. We love you, Guy. Honoring Guy Lafleur. It's the Sick Podcast. You can follow us on all social media platforms. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at the Sick Podcast, and follow us on our YouTube channel. Good night.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by 8.6, Intense by Nature, and La Cage. If the last time you went to La Cage was when the Habs won the cup, it's time you went back to La Cage. The menu will surprise you.